Hey friends, welcome to Allured by God for Good. Thanks for joining us. We are in week 13 of the Bible plan, From Discipline to Delight. This is a 17-week plan for you to read the entire Bible. So we have been hoofing it over the last 13 weeks through the entire Old Testament. We are now wrapping that up this week. Our theme this week is returning. It is really God's people returning to their homeland. They have been in captivity for 70 years in Babylon. They have been scattered all over the Babylon Empire. I'm going to throw a map up so that you can see this in a minute. Wait just a minute, because I want to talk to you about the people who we're going to be hearing from. But you're going to see what the Babylon Empire looked like and the distance of where people were that we're going to be hearing from. So here are the books that we're going to be reading in this last week of Old Testament: Haggai, Daniel, Ezra, Zechariah, Nehemiah, Esther, Malachi, and we're going to also read a few Psalms that are going to be during this time. A lot of people don't realize that when you read the Psalms, if you're reading it like from front to back. But there were several Psalms that were written as the people returned home. On their returning, on their remembering, on their pilgrimage, they were singing Psalms of thankfulness and worship to God as they were coming home. So, exile is over now. The people are free, and they are now free to go home. Some of them do, some of them don't. And so here's what we know about some of these people. So Haggai, Zechariah, these are prophets. Malachi is a prophet. Daniel is a prophet. We also have some historical content within his book. Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther are all historical books telling us a story about a situation or people as they are returning to Israel, as they are rebuilding the wall in Jerusalem, as Esther is freeing her people. So you're going to read all of these different stories this week, and it's going to kind of be the culmination of what is happening after exile in Babylon. What's interesting is this, is the prophets, Haggai, Zechariah, and then Ezra and Nehemiah, they all worked together. You're going to see their names in the historical content books. So you're going to see all of their names in the book of Ezra and in Nehemiah. And so they all knew each other, worked together to rebuild the wall in Jerusalem. That's fascinating to me because you don't typically know that unless you're really paying attention to these names in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. Daniel is in Babylon. He is in Babylon as far as we know. He stays there. And then Esther is in Persia, or a place called Susa, and that is actually what is now southern Iran. So that is where Esther, the book of Esther, happens. The Jewish people are there, and they probably, after 70 years, have done what God's asked them to do, which was plant themselves there, be rooted, get married, have families, start a life there. And so just because they're free now, some of them probably decided to stay where they were. And so they did. So I'm going to throw a map up so that you can see this real quick and see where Jerusalem is and see where Daniel is in Babylon. And then you also see where it is labeled Susa. And again, this is where Esther is. So this is the broad spectrum of what we see, where we see God's people. Malachi, from what we know, is the last book of the Old Testament. I'm not sure if it was the actual last book written, but it is the last book of the Old Testament in our physical Bibles. He uses a lot of Persian words in his text, and it is a possibility that he did know Nehemiah. We're really unsure about everything that this author has. And then the Psalms. The Psalms, I love it because everything you're going to read this week is a song of remembrance, a song of pilgrimage back to a home country. One reason I put Psalm 119 here, because some people believe that David wrote Psalm 119, and it's a possibility. We're really unsure. David does author and tell us that he authors many of the songs that he wrote. This one does not have an author listed, so we're not really sure. But a lot of the language in Psalm 119 sounds like people who have somehow been in captivity. They're remembering affliction. They're remembering a time of weeping. They're remembering God's faithfulness. And yet they are moving now to a place of freedom. I want to read to us in Psalm 119, because that's what this entire study is based off of. Psalm 119, verses 49, and I may not go quite to 64 because that is a lot of verses, but I do want to read some of this word, and I hope you hear these people, that they would be singing this. They would be worshiping. It would be their words of worship to God on this journey. It says, "Remember the word to your servant, upon which you have caused me to hope. This is my comfort in my affliction, for your word has given me life. The proud have me in great derision, yet I do not turn aside from your law. I remembered your judgments of old, O Lord, and have comforted myself. Indignation has taken hold of me because of the wicked who forsake your law. Your statutes have been my songs in the house of my pilgrimage. I remember your name in the night, O Lord, and I keep your law. This has become mine because I kept your precepts." That's just one of the stanzas in Psalm 119, but you hear the tone of that. The tone is of a people that is repenting, remembering, rebuilding, and rejoicing. And so that is really the movement that is happening of God's people here at the Old Testament. That is what they're doing. So enjoy this. These books, I think, are so timely for us. They're so full of wisdom and sweetness and the reminder of God's faithfulness in affliction and in the pilgrimage out of captivity. A couple of tips for the week. 2 days at the beginning, we're going to be jumping around a lot because of interspersing the Psalms in there. So utilize the day and night option of the little sun icon. And then on day 88, I want you to meditate in Psalm 119. It is like the backbone, I think, of God's word, because it tells us over and over again that his word is the only thing that is going to bring us comfort, peace, light in a dark place. It's going to give us hope. It's going to give us truth if we meditate on it, if we stay in it, if we remember it. And so sit in Psalm 119 for a little bit longer on day 88 if you can. And then the thread. I think personally a big thread that a lot of people don't talk about often is the book of Zechariah and his prophecies. They were so specific. They were so specific and sacred. This is where we see a suffering king in the book of Zechariah. And you're going to see these little glimpses of suffering. And it's crazy because these really, I feel like, are breadcrumbs that God is leaving for his people, so that when we get to the Gospels, which we'll start next week, and we get to the places of especially the last week of Jesus's life, from him riding in on a donkey, which is prophesied in Zechariah, from that all the way up until till his crucifixion, we are going to see these remnants of what Zechariah prophesies. So don't miss the thread in Zechariah. I love it because the words are going to hold history. They inspire curiosity. They're going to engage hearts, and they're going to prepare people for the Messiah. So his prophecy being toward the end of the Old Testament and before these years of silence is essential for the people of God. And it's essential for us for now as we move into the New Testament next week. So enjoy this week, savor it. I always am a little sad to leave the Old Testament because it's so rich in history and so much prophecy about what we're going to witness in the weeks ahead. So good job, you guys. I love that we are continuing on this path to move from discipline to delight. See you next week.